There you go. I mean, this is what every Tesla Frunk should be able to do, right down to the close. But it doesn't. And until this is an automatic or like a standard feature on every Tesla, there's a product that I wanted to give a try, and that is the Hand-Show Power Frunk, which is going to turn a manual frunk that we use like every day into an automatic frunk that opens and closes consistently and quietly with a safety mechanism to make sure it doesn't squish your fingers. It's fantastic. So let's kind of talk about the whole setup, how it works, and I'll give you my opinion at the end, which I've kind of already spoiled. And what's really cool about this product is that it is made exactly for your Tesla. So there's really no second guessing. I mean, it's pretty idiot proof. I mean, if I can install it, then you should be able to install it. And this is actually specific to the Model Y, and not only the Model Y, but this is for the Juniper edition or 2026 model. So they have the different models and they have the different versions of these. So make sure you order the right one online. So what you get in the box is the left and right hydraulic struts, which are going to replace the struts that come on the Tesla from the factory. Then of course you get the left and right brackets, which attach to the car. And it's interesting because they'll replace a different piece to give it a little bit more room, which we'll show you in a bit. And then you get a control box to control everything. Obviously you get the motor and lock block, which is going to attach to the original product. All the different harnesses, which to be honest, there's a good bit of connectivity here we're going to have to show you. So you have to make sure that everything connects upright, and then various types of tapes, and of course some cable ties. There's also some fish tape that we actually didn't need to use, but good that you have it. And to install this is actually pretty straightforward. They do have an instruction manual, which is really helpful, and an instruction video. And I kind of use both of them because at first I just watched the video, and doing that you kind of miss a couple parts that are pretty crucial because obviously it's just a video. But then once you go through the manual, it gives you a little bit more, and also there's a little bit lost in translation on the manual. So just utilize both of them. There's QR codes for both the manual and the video. I highly recommend that you watch those and study them first and get familiar with all the parts and areas on the car before you just try to attempt this. And you start obviously by removing the trim cover piece that's up high in the frunk area, and then you're going to be removing the frunk closing button trim panel and unplugging that before you actually then take out the 4 bolts and pull the frunk out. And then once the frunk's out, there's a third piece inside that you take off and really exposes the entire electrical system of the Tesla. Now, one of the first steps was actually one of the more challenging in removing the old struts off of the Tesla. They do take a little force to remove. I was able to pop them off the top first, and then it kind of gave me a little bit more room then to pop them off the bottom. It's a bit of a challenge because you want to use force, but you also don't want to damage anything. And you know, whether it be the hood kind of moving a little bit or me thinking that I was going to scratch the paint on the exterior, it was just a bit of a challenge. And my hands are kind of large, so I was kind of scratching them up in my forearms. So just know they do pop off, and once you get them off, you're kind of halfway home with regards to the challenges. Once you take off the struts, remember that there's nothing holding up the hood now. So we actually kind of jerry-rigged a broom to hold up the hood, which worked out perfectly. But this is obviously a 2-man job, or at least 1 man, 1 broom. Then removing the ball joint was actually fairly easy. You just need to find a 13mm wrench, which we actually had from one of our e-bikes. So that was pretty easy, just to loosen it up and then just remove it by hand. Then Hand-Show provides you with a new body bracket to put on each side, and they're labeled left and right so that you can make sure they're on the correct side. There's not much wiggle room with regards to putting them on, but there may be a little wiggle room. And if you feel like the piece doesn't fit, just kind of keep screwing it on, because there's some fireproofing material, I think, that's on there, and it's going to just eventually tighten down. And this is a point where you should actually read the manual, because when we just watched the video, we didn't think about it and we just used their actual ball joint to screw it back in. The instructions clearly show 2 bolts that replace those ball joints, so just make sure you follow the instructions. And then you're just replacing this one strut for another one. Now you're putting the hydraulic struts in with the cabling facing down so that it can just run through the car and connect up with the other wire harnesses. Now the next few steps are a little bit more technical, so I would refer you back to their manual, but more or less you're going to be adding on their locking mechanism to the original locking mechanism. And I've seen some people use some blue tape to kind of mark out where the lock is before removing it, and I think that's a good idea because we misaligned it to a degree upon putting it back in, and it wasn't working perfectly to start. But it's a process, and you should follow the instructions in order to get that set. And then after that, you're just connecting a bunch of harnesses up, and it's pretty interesting to me that they have this all locked down. The engineer engineering on this product's fantastic. You got the D7, the D8, D6. To be honest, they're all different, so it's not like you're gonna like slam together ones that don't fit, but make sure they're all connected properly. There is an extension for one of the struts because the entire harness ends up going over to the front left of the car, or front right, depending on which way you're looking at it. One of the struts is gonna need an extension piece in order to route the wires over the frunk so it's not in the way. So you'll get to that point and then just add that extension on. And then once you have the harnesses all together, then you're gonna connect everything to their control box, which is the brains of the operation, and that's gonna be stored up in that front left area. And then after you have those harnesses in, then you're just gonna hook up to power. So you're gonna connect to a ground wire, connect to the positive on the battery. I was a little nervous about that, but we got it done without any incident. And lastly, you have to connect the emergency pull cable in case it doesn't work, right? In case it fails, you wanna have a manual release. So that's actually in the front bumper area. They show you how to pull that off. You just connect it with the zip tie and put it back on. Very simple. And then all that's left to do is some wire management. They show you in detail, but more or less you wanna make sure that the new harnesses run with the old harnesses and in the direction of the old wiring so that when you put the frunk back in, you're not gonna have any issues with the frunk pushing down and breaking wires. But before you put the frunk back together, now is a good time to actually test out if this works. But that's not what we did. We of course just put all the plastic pieces in and then tested it after the fact. And it didn't work right off the bat. And it's not Hanshow's problem. It was actually because we put the new Hanshow lock on too high in relation to where the original was. So when it was closing, it wasn't actually grabbing on the lock and pulling it shut. And I actually put my camera inside in order to kind of visualize this because it was annoying me that it wasn't working at first. But all I had to do was take the frunk plastic pieces back out and adjust the new latch to make sure that it was aligned properly. And once I did that, it worked like a charm. And that's the installation process. And to be honest, I don't think it was that difficult. I think it took us like about an hour and a half to complete this. Me and the broom, and Eric helped too. But when I made the mistake, that took a few more hours for me to fix because then you got to go back and take the pieces out and try again. So in the end, yes, a few hour job, and I think it's totally worth it because our son plays football and he has his football pads in here all the time. And to open and close twice, 3 times a day and see fingerprints all over the hood, on top of the fact that just pushing the hood down seems so archaic when it comes to an electric car that automatically does pretty much everything else besides opening and closing this piece. It just seems odd that this is not, comes standard with every Tesla. So yes, it's definitely a benefit. And once it's working, it's very seamless. Now there is one bit of information, a little bonus piece here. If you saw in the beginning of our video, our frunk opens and closes a little bit slowly in my opinion, but there are settings on the actual control box for speed of use. So you can hold down the reset button and it'll beep different amounts of time that will then make this faster or slower. So that is adjustable. I'm just being a little bit lazy right now because I don't want to take all these pieces back out. But I think I will actually do so in order to speed this frunk opening and closing up because I have it basically at the slowest speed possible right now. So yes, I highly recommend that you get the Power Frunk kit for the Model Y. To be honest, I'm hoping I can get it for my Model S as well because I absolutely love it. Fantastic engineering. I absolutely love the way that they put this kit together. And they have all kinds of products, a lot of them for the Model Y and the Model 3. So go on the website and check it out. We have links in the description below. They also included a Frunk lighting kit as well. So at night, if you want to have some ambiance or some ambient light in your frunk to see what's going on down there. Pretty cool little solution as well. Simple connection to the front harness there. Again, great engineering, connects right with the power source here in the front. And all these products are just so well done. So I definitely think you should check out the Power Frunk and the ambient light. And there's all kinds of other things, the heads-up display. Now that's something I'm interested for the Model Y as well because I have a Model S and I love the heads-up display. So to have that on the Model Y would be interesting. Hoping to get that product out and see how we like that in the Model Y. I want to thank Hanshow for sending these products over. Make sure you use the links in the description to buy them online, and we'll see you guys in the next video.